Hi crafters, happy Monday. So today what I want to show you guys is how to make a stencil using Design Space and your Cricut machine, and then we're going to cut out that stencil onto a piece of vinyl. And using vinyl is really awesome for stencils because you can stick it onto things and then you can paint or you can draw, or if you're really fancy you can etch. So today what you're going to need is you're going to need your Design Space open, you're going to need your Cricut obviously, and then I'm using some Cricut vinyl that I had laying around. This is the non-permanent vinyl, so let's get started. Alright, so first things we want to do when we are making a stencil is we first want to open up a new project. So you're going to click here on New Project, and you're going to open up a blank canvas on Design Space. So to make a stencil, we first need to figure out what we want it to say. So I'm going to do lettering, but you can make a stencil out of pretty much anything. So let's make a stencil, and we're going to have it say, let's see, we'll do so we're going to have it say gather at the top, and then on the bottom we're going to have it say together. Alright, and so the reason I put these in two different text boxes is because I want them to be two different fonts. So for this gather, I'm going to want this to be, what's a good font that I like? Let's do, this one's a good one. So this is our Inda script, and I found this on Font Bundles. I really like this one a lot. So we can see this one says gather, and this one says together. Let's see which font we want that one to be. I like mixing fonts. I like some of, if I'm doing two different fonts, I like to mix it up a little bit. So the first one is a cursive scripty font. So the second one, I kind of want it to be a little more bold and straightforward. So one that I really like is, so is Baskerville, Old Face. I really like this one a lot. So I'm going to have this say gather together. So first, before we start making our stencil, we want to make sure these letters are all welded together. So one of the things I see a lot with people is they forget to weld their script fonts. So by weld, so see, like all of these letters here have this little tail at the end, or most of them do. This one doesn't so much, but basically what that means is these are all supposed to be connected together, and most fonts don't have them already connected because they're just single letters. So to do that, we are going to need to ungroup. So there's an ungroup button up here. So we're going to want to ungroup these letters. So now I can move these letters individually. Whereas before, when they were all grouped together, you could move it all together. So I couldn't move the letters one by one. So I'm going to ungroup these. So now what I want to do is move my letters so they're all going to be connected. So see, I want this A to touch the G, and then the T I want to touch right there. And so the T here doesn't really have a natural tail where it should be connecting with the H. So I'm just going to put the H right here. I think that looks good. Same with the E. I wouldn't put the E all the way down here. I would just kind of put it where it should naturally go, which is right there. And then this R is going to sit right here. Okay? So once I have all the letters where I want them, you're going to want to weld them now. So to do that, you select all the letters you want to weld. Actually, I want to move this over just a teeny bit more. All right. So select all the letters, and then down here, this weld button, you're going to want to hit weld. All right, so now our letters are all connected, and now it's one nice word. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do with this one down here. And notice that with these kind of fonts, this is not a script, so I don't need to weld these letters together. I actually kind of like the spacing. If you want the spacing to be closer, you can always go up here to letter space, and you can put them a little bit closer together or further away. It's really your preference. So we'll put these, yeah, that looks good. Okay. So how I want this sign to look is I want the gather to be big, and then I want the together to be a little bit smaller. And now I want this to be a little bit thinner. Yeah, like that. Yeah, so I like how that looks. So now we got to see how big we want this for our piece of wood that's going to go on. So how I like to do this is just personal preference for me, but how I like to do this is I like to pull out my shapes button and pick a square, because this is going to go on a piece of wood. So I want to stretch this out to see how big I should make my letters. So I'm just going to move these out of the way a little bit. So my piece of wood is 12 by 24. Okay, so now I can put my letter, oh, I gotta move that to the front. Move to front. So now I can kind of gauge and get an idea of what this will look like. Move this to the front so it doesn't go behind. So we might want to make this gather a little bit bigger. All right, so I like how that looks. So now we have a nice idea of what our sign will look like. Should maybe be pulled down a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks nice. Okay, so now we are ready to make our actual stencil. So first, what we're going to want to do is weld these two phrases together so they will be cut onto one piece of vinyl. So to do that, we're going to highlight both phrases. So see, they're both selected, and we're going to head over here to weld. I think you can do weld or attach. I just do weld, but you can attach too. So weld. So now this is one phrase here, okay? So now we can take the same shape that we used earlier to make our stencil. So we don't need the stencil to be this big because that's just going to waste a ton of vinyl. So what we can do is make it like this big, I think is good. So you're just going to make a square or a rectangle around it. Okay, so now we still have our letters and our phrase separate from our rectangle. So now this is kind of the fun part, I think. So now we need to cut out the actual stencil out of this rectangle here, because if we were to only cut this out, it's not going to give us a nice sticker rectangle that we could then stick on our wood and paint over. So what I like to do is I like to throw this over the rectangle. So then we're going to want to select the phrase, and we're also going to want to select the rectangle. So you can just hold this, and you can then hold the shift key on your laptop or your computer and click the rectangle. So now the entire thing is selected. Okay, so another way you could do that is you could just highlight the whole thing. So that's gonna select the phrase and the rectangle itself. So once you have all that selected, you're gonna go over here and click the slice button. So you can see when I deselect everything, the slice button goes away. Okay, but then once I highlight it, the slice button lights up again. And the reason that is because it knows that it knows that you have two layers here and that you have the ability to slice one of these layers out of the rectangle. So I'll just show you what I mean because I think it's getting a little confusing. So we're just going to hit the slice button. So now you're going to move that first layer, the second layer, and now you have a nice sticker stencil that you can cut out onto your vinyl. All right, so let's cut this bad boy out now. So I'm going to get rid of these for now because I don't need them. And I'm going to click Make It. So now you can see in Design Space, my sticker is ready to go. So let's make this bad boy. All right, so let's start making our stencil. So I've cut a piece of vinyl out to match the length and width of my stencil. So for this, I'm just using regular Cricut vinyl. You can use Stencil vinyl. You can use Oracle 631, which I also really like. This is just what I have handy, so I cut it out, and now we're going to stick it to the mat. And remember, if you're doing this stencil in particular that I'm doing, you're going to need a 12 by 24 mat. But remember, they also have the 12 by 12, so you can always make it smaller if you want. So let's stick this to our mat. Make sure to get out most of the air bubbles. I don't know where my scraper went, so I'm just gonna have to do this by hand, I guess. All right, so now we are pretty much ready to make our stencil. So for me, I have to pull out my Cricut a little bit just because my table's not that big. But it's actually nice because now you can really see. And make sure you change your setting to vinyl. So we're going to want to set it at the vinyl setting. And I need to make something, but sometimes it helps if you put a sticker here that says remember to change your settings, because I've cut so many things on the wrong setting before and I've wasted a lot of material. So anyway, let's get started cutting this thing. So now we're going to go back to Design Space. And so we have our stencil up here. So now we just hit continue. And we're going to wait for it to connect to my Cricut machine, hopefully. See, that blue button is the best feeling ever. That means you are good to go. So let's cut this bad boy. So make sure our vinyl's all stuck down. So we're going to load our mat. So to load your mat, all you need to do is put it under these two little teeth thingies here, and this is blinking, which is good. So you're going to click that, and then as it's loading, I like to help kind of push it in a little bit. So click. All right, so our mat is all loaded. So now all we have to do is hit cut. Should probably invest in a bigger table. All Alright, so our stencil is done, so we're going to unload our mat. Push this back where it goes. So now we can weed our stencil. Alright, so to weed your stencil, you're going to need your weeding tool here. I can turn this off now. And first I like to start off by getting rid of this excess that we have around the border so then we can see what we're working with. So this is going to be our nice sticker. So now we can just start to weed this. I love using script fonts because you can get everything out in one piece almost if it's cooperating. Like I said, if it's cooperating. Alright, so you're done, and now we have a nice sticker that we can throw onto a piece of wood or a tile or whatever you want. You can put the stencil on and either paint or do whatever you want. So now you know how to make a stencil with the Cricut machine and the Design Space software. So happy crafting!